I'm Brandon Abbott, and this is the MasterClass on the spiritual discipline of solitude and journaling. When we walk into a dark room, we flip on the light naturally because darkness is the unknown. It's like a void that needs to be filled. But I think that's also how we tend to treat silence and solitude too, like a dark room, and we really need somebody to flip on the light. Because silence it's the unknown. It's like the world has stopped and somebody needs to start it up again. So we go through our days just kind of flipping on the lights of noise. We have podcasts and music and books and television. We have conversations with people. We even have texts because not all noise is audible. Because of our technology, sound is so convenient. And for the most part, it's distraction that's the first thing to say good morning to us each and every day. It's distraction that holds our hand when we're bored. It's distraction that updates us at every red light. And why? Why are we so addicted to noise and activity? What is so loud about silence and solitude that we need to drown it out with sounds and images and the presence of other people? I think maybe we think that there's a monster under our bed, a monster of our own introspection. Silence and solitude, it's like a mirror. It's self-reflection, and we don't want to look in that mirror because honestly, we're afraid we won't like what we see. We'll have to face that thing we're most afraid of, ourselves. Some believers over time have chosen to eliminate that noise by eliminating all noise, all distraction, electing for a life of solitude, a monastic kind of existence. But total isolation may not always be the best response. Some noises are unavoidable. We're called to live in this noisy world, and honestly, we're designed to do life together as the church, so we need people in our presence as well. So how do we find that balance between the soundtrack of our life and the silence that God's Word tells us is so critical to finding our way through it? Jesus was a really busy guy. And as word spread about him, people crowded him, they pressed on him, they demanded things of him. And so often in the midst of it all, he withdrew, not to avoid people, but to prepare for them. In Luke 5, verse 15, it says the news about him spread even more, and so large crowds would come together and hear him to be healed of their sicknesses. And yet he often withdrew, it says, to deserted places and prayed. We read in Mark chapter 1, verse 35, that Jesus got up very early in the morning while it was still dark, that he got up, he went out, and he made his way to a deserted place, and there he was praying. He made his way to a deserted place, and there he was praying. Jesus was intentional about creating space for silence and solitude in his ministry. There were others in the Bible who did the same thing. The psalmist writes, "My soul waits in silence for God only." Lamentations says that it's good to wait quietly, to sit alone in silence for what the Lord has laid on us. And that's because while God sometimes speaks like thunder, speaks like fire, he also speaks quietly, even slowly. Elijah found him in a still, small whisper. Habakkuk waited and waited, and God said, "Wait a little longer." Time and time again, we see God's word tell us to be still and just know that he is God. When the angel told Zechariah and Elizabeth that they would have a child, Zechariah laughed. He used his voice, he used his mouth to express indignation and disbelief, and so God made him silent. And it wouldn't be until Zechariah named his son according to God's instruction that God would open his mouth again. I think silence, solitude, it forces us to confront those monsters under the bed. The monsters like self-doubt, maybe faithlessness, the monsters of shame or fear, or even, ironically, loneliness. It's in silence and solitude, as in the case of Zechariah, that sometimes God will speak truth to our hearts that our mouths so easily will dismiss. I have this place. It's a flatbed by a creek, and it's got a little waterfall. I go there sometimes. I don't typically have an agenda when I go there because I know God will supply that. I go there to sit, to listen, to think, and to pray. My silence is obviously outward, but it's also inward because I'm not just being silent for God. I'm being silent before God in reverence to Him and in worship of Him. I do this because honestly, I need a time. I need a place. For you, those spaces may look different. It may mean just putting down your phone or moving the icon of your favorite pastime app to another screen so that you'll actually have to think before you just instinctively flip it open and flip on the light of that particularly little dark 3 minutes of your day. Maybe you grab a journal, not to write a memoir or anything that anybody else may ever read, but maybe you just need to be quiet and make a few piles of words on a page, emotions you're feeling, dates, errands, not to remember them, but just to get them out of your head so that you too can have some inward silence. Maybe you pick a Bible verse, a short one. Maybe you spend your week memorizing that Bible verse, meditating on that verse, saying it to yourself, praying it to God. And instead of reaching that next level of Clash of Clans, maybe you'll clean a few monsters out from under your bed. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 2 says, not to be hasty to speak, not to be impulsive to make a speech before God. God is in heaven and we are on earth, so we should let our words be few. Today, I hope you and I will find ourselves in an unexpected room of silence and have the courage to maybe leave the light off, to think, to consider, to pray in silence and solitude.